On July 9th of this year, the United States Supreme Court decided the McGirt case and held that the Cherokee Nation's reservation has never been disestablished, and by extension, because we share similar histories and treaties, that applies to our Cherokee Nation reservation. Justice Hugo Black, former Justice of the United States Supreme Court, said that great nations, like great men, should keep their word. When the United States honors treaties that it made with Indian nations, our entire country becomes stronger and a more just place because those promises are kept to First Nations. But there are also many new challenges that we face. The same federal and state agencies with which we've collaborated for decades through cross-deputizations, through partnerships, federal level, state level, those agencies are now more vulnerable than ever. As a result of the McGirt decision, defendants throughout the reservations of the 5 tribes who've been charged with crimes in state court are asking to be retried in federal court or tribal court. Many state law enforcement officers are familiarizing themselves with tribal reservation boundaries for the first time and learning about jurisdictional rules that operate in Indian country. Decisions in many such cases will likely be made by state courts before the end of the year. Our Attorney General Sara has worked day in and day out to meet with other prosecutors in Northeast Oklahoma. She currently has 2 Cherokee Nation attorneys training with Jack Thorpe, one of our local district attorneys, whose district lies primarily inside the Cherokee Nation reservation. Her office is tracking hundreds of cases that may need to be tried in federal or tribal courts. Partnerships at every level of law enforcement will be needed as we begin to move forward post-McGirt. And the Cherokee Nation is committed, as it always is, to accepting these challenges head-on and continue to seek additional funding and resources so that we can adequately expand our staff of our court systems, our Attorney General's office, and of course, our Marshal Service. The Cherokee Nation will work tirelessly to ensure that those who commit crimes on our reservation are apprehended and to ensure that these criminals are prosecuted for their crimes. And because we will need strong partnerships, we are deeply honored, Mr. Attorney General, that you've chosen to spend your time with us today to learn more about the Cherokee Nation.
I know McGirt is on everyone's mind, and in Washington, the Department of Justice is working closely with the Oklahoma delegation to try to come up with a legislative approach that is supported by all sides. But as we do that, we are committed to implementing it and meeting the challenges we're facing right now, which is a question of resources. Obviously, we didn't plan on the McGirt decision when we were deploying our resources from the last budget cycle, but we have pressing needs now for our prosecutors and for the prison system. We sought to address that initially with some temporary assignments of prosecutors from around the country and other professionals from around the country to augment both the northern and eastern districts here. That has had an effect. I'm told by Trent that since August, his office has prosecuted 114 cases, whereas in a typical year, the entire year would be about 230 cases. So you can see the impact this is having on us. I'm also pleased to announce today that we're funding a tribal, what we call a Special Assistant United States Attorney Program, or SAUSA program, with $2 million over 3 years. The department will provide funds to hire 2 prosecutors for the Eastern District and 2 prosecutors for the Northern District from tribal prosecutors who will then be cross-designated. So those prosecutors can handle cases both in tribal courts and in federal courts. We also are taking a longer-term view and have just gone through an exercise of taking slots from around the country, 30 prosecutorial slots, 10 other professional slots, and then additional slots for victims experts, assistants, to shift those slots to Oklahoma so they can meet the federal responsibilities here. In November of last year, the President signed an executive order which created Operation Lady Justice, a task force that is charged with developing a government-wide response to the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous persons. And we're very pleased to have Patty Buell of the Cherokee Nation now in the Department of Justice as the coordinator for all the U.S. Attorney's offices here in Oklahoma on that project. And in the next several weeks, she'll be reaching out, and the offices will be reaching out to develop action plans and protocols for responding to these cases as they arise. Finally, I'm happy to announce today that the department is awarding over $296 million throughout the country for tribal grants to improve public safety, serve victims of crime, support law enforcement COVID assistance, and for the support of youth programs in American Indian and Alaska Native communities, as well as research and technical assistance for these communities. This funding will be almost $40 million allocated to Oklahoma and over $7.6 million directly to the Cherokee Nation. And it will provide critical support to law enforcement and important funding for victims service providers. So those are some of the steps we're taking, and I'm looking forward to my discussions later this morning to hear the perspectives on how we can strengthen our partnership going forward.